Let's talk about the best perks for the brand new Ancient Launcher in Fortnite Save the World. If you're watching this in the long off future, it's probably not new anymore, but still this information is going to be good. So, the Ancient Launcher is a completely unique weapon in Fortnite Save the World on the first day of release. We expect a weapon set to follow that is going to mimic its special perk that I'm about to explain, but for now, it is a one-of-a-kind weapon with a very, very special 6 perk where you can target up to 8 enemies by aiming down the sights, looking at those targets, and it marks them with a red mark that will then explode when you remove the ADS. So you aim in, glance over a bunch of targets, unaim, and they explode. This is not an explosion, mind you. This is a single targeted attack on the individual enemy. So if you mark one enemy next to another, it will not hit that adjacent enemy. So it's kind of an explosion. It is a launcher, but it's not technically an area of effect explosion. The explosion comes from the main attack. If you simply just left click instead of ADSing, it will shoot a ball of dark black red matter that explodes on the enemies and does this weird anime. I love it. It's cool. It's got a whole visual effect that looks really, really cool. And it's got a bunch of different source audio that actually makes the weapon really, really satisfying to use. Unfortunately, at the day of release, we do have a bug where boom bass and ear splitter and a lot of things are very loud in the game. It's not going to be easy to appreciate it, but in the future, I'm sure we can all enjoy this weapon the way that it was properly intended. So what's also interesting about this weapon is that it consumes energy cells in an interesting way that I don't know that I've ever seen before. When you just use the main ball attack, it'll do 10 energy cells, and it will add to your heat consumption, so it can overheat. This is like a heat capacity weapon and a mag size weapon. We've never really seen this exact combo before. The invasion weapons are a little bit like that, but this one's kind of weird. You need to keep track of your ammo as you're using it. So if you use that main ball, it'll consume 10 energy cells, it'll do some damage to the enemies around it, and it'll consume a lot of heat. Whereas if you mark the individual targets up to 8, you will use 1 energy cell per enemy. And it seems like when you finish attacking an enemy, it automatically reloads. It takes 0.9 seconds to do that, so you still want to wait about 1 second in between uses. However, there's more. When you mark any amount of enemies, it will consume half of your energy capacity. It looks like it's using about 50 of your 100 heat, I guess I'll call it. So if you are going to be marking enemies and attacking them in that way, you only get to do that about 3 times in quick succession before you overheat the weapon. When you do overheat the weapon, it takes a few seconds. I haven't exactly timed it, but it's a while to be down for the count, so you definitely want to manage your energy very, very well. And the way to do that when you're using the ADS attack is when you ADS or aim down the sights, it will freeze your heat capacity wherever it is. So you want to eyeball it a little bit. I wish they'd put like a line or something a little more obvious, but when it's under the halfway point, you will not overheat the weapon once you release. And it will not use any of that heat unless you actually mark a target. If you accidentally mark a target, it's very easy to do that. You will overheat the weapon. The way to get around that, of course, is to make sure it's underneath that line, be very careful, and try to get the most bang for your buck. Try to mark at least 8 enemies every single time you do that, just to get the most out of it. The other way to handle it, this is something I've been doing in the games I've been running with it, is just use 2 copies. It's a little weird to use 2 copies of the weapon. You know, when I'm showcasing it as a brand new weapon, that's fun and exciting, but in everyday use, say you've got your main primary weapon, you're running a shotgun or an SMG or an AR or a bow, whatever your primary is. Then you've got the Baron for like triple movement speed, just getting around the map nice and quick. Then you've got the Ancient Launcher on the side for like general crowd clearing. You're not typically going to want to be running 2 of these. Maybe once the defense begins, you can drop the Baron, but that's a little bit of inventory management that you might not be up to. So in my opinion, proper energy management with a single copy of this is most fluid, but if you want to use 2 copies, that takes care of that as well. As for the actual perks of the weapon, now that we fully understand how it works, it's a little tricky. So the energy option is kind of the only one in my opinion. If you are using this anywhere from Stonewood to Canny, you might want to run it physical. That'll be better versus most of the enemies in that range. But once you're in late Canny, and especially in every zone and Twine, you will be dealing with elemental targets often, and energy will be the best way to deal with that. If you're unfamiliar with how elements work in Save the World, I'll link my video down in the description down below. It's extremely thorough. It covers everything, and that is your resource to learn everything there is. Now, the second perk is pretty much locked where it is. Durability doesn't do too much. The launcher is pretty efficient in my opinion. Impact is not really why we're using this weapon. We're probably trying to remove the enemies in front of us. However, mist monsters and bosses are not the target of this weapon. I haven't really alluded to this yet, but it is a fairly weak weapon. Now, before you click off and you say, oh, this weapon's trash, I might add, if you are looking at launchers to eliminate mist monsters, you're going for the pot shot or something like that, this is not your guy, okay? A lot of launchers are really good at eliminating single targets, taking care of the big boys, the mini bosses, whatever. This is much more for the crowds of enemies around those targets, clearing the way so that you can focus on the bigger enemies. For that use case, it is doing hundreds of thousands of damage, which is more than enough for regular enemies, Husky Husks, Riot Huskies, Propanes. It'll take care of them just fine, and a crit build will make that a lot more consistent. I am running crit damage and crit rating just because they will spike the damage, and it's very nice to have that happen. You can't choose which targets get those crits, but it does go a long way. If you want consistency, you could honestly consider triple damage on this. Seeing as we are not trying to do millions upon millions of damage, we're just trying to stay within the damage range of killing normal targets, it is totally reasonable to just run triple damage. I'm going to link this spreadsheet in the description down below, but if you want a complete resource of all the enemy health values, this is a really, really good thing to check, and it tells you that Husky Husks are the highest health target that you're going to encounter in an endgame mission. If we scale this all the way to power level 250, the most damage that we need to worry about doing is 971,000. You are not going to consistently do 971,000 with every single shot if you run triple damage. I have like most of a party here of very high level players, and you can see we are not even getting to 300,000, and if I burn my hundreds of thousands of repurk just to demonstrate, we can get up to just under half of that. So if you are worried about dealing with Husky Husks, that is, you know, the Propanes and the Riot Huskies, you are going to need to crit to deal with them effectively, and that's why we are kind of locked into doing this. And of course, if we are targeting 8 enemies every single time we fire this, a crit build does sort of work, and you are shooting it fairly often, so this should be consistent enough. I really wish this weapon had affliction of some kind so that those enemies could just fade away. You leave them on 1 HP so often, which is why I recommend the damage perk here. As stated very clearly, mist monsters and bosses are not our primary targets. Again, if I can show this sheet, this is what I'm talking about. Blasters and takers will have about 1.3 or 1.6 million health. I was watching this crit with Totally Rockin' Out and Boom Base and a full squad for about 1.2 million-ish. It went up and down a lot, but that was about where we were hovering. So that's still not enough to take out a blaster, and it's definitely not enough to deal with a smasher. So considering that even with double mist monsters and bosses, Totally Rockin' Out, and everything working for it, it's not enough to quite take out those bigger targets, honestly, the damage perk is what I would recommend. I would love to run double damage, crit rating crit damage, or crit rating double crit damage and a damage perk. That would be a lot better, and then I might even advise against that. If they someday change the perks and double crit damage is an option, I actually have seen that 1.1 million crit is well more than the 971,000 that we need to take out a Husky. So as far as killing normal targets, crit rating crit damage should be sufficient, and double damage would be ideal, but damage to mist monsters and bosses is the best option, considering I don't think durability should be a concern. You can only make bright core launchers, they'll last plenty, and impact, again, doesn't quite kill the target, it just staggers them, which is really not what we're after. So there are a lot of considerations here, and hopefully this cleared it up. It's a very tricky weapon, very complicated, very unique to the game, and I'm excited to see it. Again, as a recording, there isn't a set to follow this weapon, but in the future, I expect there will be. Hopefully there are videos of that on the channel, and you can check them out if they are there. But it looks like it's a really, really cool 6 perk with a very interesting playstyle to follow. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Channel members get early access to my videos, so if you want to see them early, there you go. I try not to paywall informative videos like this one here, the best perks video, but they do get early access to all sorts of fun stuff, so, you know, maybe that's a consideration. Description down below. You know, like the video, enjoy the rest of your day, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. And then